touch with Matthew, who's in Hitchin here, who's been listening to what you've been saying, listening to what Nigel said at the start of the program as well. James, meet Matthew. Matthew, meet James.
Hello, Matthew. Hello,
Matthew. You used to work on a shoot, didn't you? What did you make of what James has been saying?
Yes, I used to work on a shoot. This was back in 2007, 2010. So this was after the ban, but obviously the dogs had been docked before the ban came in. And I agree that docking them to the extent where it's as short as you were saying, obviously that's a problem. But docking it by 1/3 is vital to ensuring that they don't get infections, that they can easily manage about in the brush. Because I was a beater on the shoot, and they'd get in the brush and the brambles, and if they didn't have a docked tail, then it could lead to there was the study by the University of Glasgow showing that they're much more likely to get a risk of injury and infection if they don't have their tails docked by 1/3.
On you go, James. Can't you pick up?
That is rubbish. I've got an extremely large garden. I've got 2 dogs. Okay, it's full of, one end of it is totally wild. It's got brambles, thistles, thorns, stinging nettles, and I don't have any problem. My dogs, they love it down there. Never a problem. That is rubbish.
Experience. I'm glad that you know that your experience of 2 dogs in your back garden is that's more empirical evidence than a.
But Matthew, that right?
1,000 dogs.
Matthew, what I was going to say is that I don't hear ever, and I've never heard from pet owners, and we speak to a lot on this program, and we have, and my empirical evidence is only of 3 dogs when I was growing up, three big Labradors, big thumping tails, again very active dogs running through the undergrowth, beating their tails off the sides of buildings and on the floor and everything all the time. I've never heard of pet dogs injuring their tails simply by being boisterous and having very lively and very active existences. Are you saying that with pet dogs it simply doesn't happen, and if it doesn't, why doesn't it happen?
Well, no, with pet dogs you're not putting them into situations that working dogs do on when you're beating. The situations they find themselves in are vastly different, and if a pet dog was going through what a working dog...
Okay, can I come in there?
Well, let Matthew continue for a second. Matthew, on you go.
Well, I mean, the situation is vastly different. I mean, you can't really compare the two, because if your dog was going through the brambles and everything that working dogs were, they would get cuts and infections. I mean, I have a pet dog, not a pet dog. No, listen. I have a pet dog, and I take it for walks, and sometimes it gets a thorn in its paw. I mean, it can get cuts, and by docking.
But that's not a reason to cut their paws off.
No, but that's unavoidable. But with a tail, that's massive.
Well, look, I mean, you're talking about brambles. I happen to be from the Highlands of Scotland, where those dogs did run around exactly in those conditions on a very regular basis. They'd also go swimming. They'd also be running around, as I say, bumping their tails off all sorts of circumstances. So if we're talking about empirical evidence, you raised the example of your dog there, Matthew. I'm raising the example of the 3 that I had, and James has raised the example of his 2 dogs. I still don't see that the difference in the circumstances in which many pet dogs enjoy themselves on a regular basis are so completely different to the circumstances that gun dogs and other field sports dogs work in.
Okay, so let me take you through a day of a beat. Usually about 6 hours in the woods. The dogs will be constantly in thick brambles. They get excited, their tails start wagging. And it's been shown the case since the docking ban. There has been a massive increase in the amount of dogs getting cuts and infections whilst beating.
James, come back in there, because you've been listening for a while.
Yeah, this guy is driving me absolutely potty. I'm sorry. I also had 2 border collies, which I used to loan to a farm occasionally to round his cows and sheep up. And those 2 border collies I took over to the woods. They would spend happily time in the brambles, in all the rubbish. They never got any damage. This is just absolutely ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. If dogs had this problem, they wouldn't have damn tails. I mean, I can't believe these people's attitudes. I can't. I'm sorry.
James, listen for that. Matthew, thank you as well. As I said earlier on with Nigel, it strikes me, and this is my view, that perhaps the way to prevent field dog injuries, in other words, to prevent dogs being injured in the pursuit of field sports, is not to use them in the pursuit of field sport.